Today, we're talking about creating healthy workplaces to prevent burnout for leaders. And I'm so excited for this episode as today's guest is an amazing woman who I've worked very closely with over a number of years and seen her transition from a history of leadership roles in the corporate environment to starting her own consulting business. And now she's running programs in her local community with councils and organizations, and she's making an incredible impact with the work that she does. Now, Donna Adams is a leadership coach. She's a workshop facilitator and behavior change expert, and the director and founder of Donna Adams Consulting, the Southern Leaders Circle, and Business Leaders Circle. Now, Donna and her circle-based approach are changing people and organizations one circle at a time. And I can't wait to hear more about this. And we're going to right in a moment. Donna's an internationally accredited NLP Master Practitioner, trainer, and coach, and she holds a Bachelor of Business and Bachelor of Commerce and Accounting. So welcome to the Coaching Circle, Donna Adams.
Thank you, Toni. What an introduction. That was amazing. Well done. I'm
Well,
so excited to be here.
yes, you are quite an impressive woman, Donna, and I'm so excited to have you on because I know, having known you, like I said, for quite a few years, it's like every year I've discovered more and more about just the incredible person that you are and, the impact that you've made across the world, in actual fact, not just your local community. And I'm really keen to get into all that. But where I just love to start with people is, what led you to start your business and why is what you do important to you?
Yeah, well, Toni, I didn't have coaching in my sights or doing workshops, and I was working in leadership roles, managing teams through change. And I had young children, I was juggling the work-life balance. And then all of a sudden, I just started not enjoying anything. I had everything to enjoy, but I just found work really stressful and home life was great, but I just wasn't getting that joy out of it. And so I just started exploring, well, what's happening for me? And I found out that I was burnt out. So I was just so burnt out. I had nothing more to give. And I felt like I was really flatlining. Yeah, no enjoyment whatsoever. So I needed to do something. And so I started just exploring who I was and what I wanted to contribute in the workplace and my family life. And that's when I discovered NLP and coaching and actually discovered your training. So I actually did the training for my own benefit and to connect into getting more joy and fulfillment for myself. But what I found was the power of the mind was so fascinating for me. And so I kept on learning more and more and more. And then I decided that, yeah, I wanted to start my own consulting business. And really, like, I just knew so many leaders doing such important work, but they were getting burnt out and they were leaving their industries like disability and aged care. And they just weren't able to pursue their passions because they had to leave it just for their own well-being. So that's what I'm really passionate about. And that's why I started my business to really help leaders to make an impact in their communities, but without that burnout and having to sacrifice their life and their happiness. So yeah, that's where it all began.
Yeah, look, Donna, and I think, so many people can, probably relate to this who have been in that situation where, it looks like everything should be great, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got a great paying job, you've got the family, you've got, all the lifestyle things there, but you're just like, what's wrong with me? Right? Why am I not enjoying this? Like, why am I feeling so tired and stressed and, whatever else goes along with that.
Yeah, and you start to get really mad at yourself as well because you know you've got no reason to complain, but deep inside you, just things don't feel right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so, for you, Donna, could you identify, like now in hindsight, right? Obviously, looking back now with what you know now, can you identify what were the key things that, really attributed to your burnout?
Yeah, it was often, and for me especially, it was my expectations. I had huge expectations on myself. I had gone from full time running corporate teams as a general manager to then having young kids and into project management work in a part time capacity. But I still wanted to have that impact of a full time employee, a full-time leader. But then I was going home and raising two young girls with my husband, doing all the things that need to be done at home as well. So I was just trying to basically work twice as hard to try and keep up with work me and personal life me. And so I just felt like I was being stretched way too thin, and I started to feel really tired all the time. I started to get really irritable. I started to get frustrated with myself, and I just wasn't getting the joy out of any area of my life. And even though I was getting promotions and I've got great family and friends and a great lifestyle, none of it was really doing it for me. So that was a real telltale sign that
Mm,
something needed to change.
yeah, absolutely. And what do you think? What do you think is, because I'm really interested in this, Donna, like thinking about this from a perspective now, in what happens with organizations, and especially for leaders. Like, what do you think? And not from a finger pointing perspective, but what do you think was missing from your work environment? Do you know what I mean? Like what was missing, or guidance or support or structure that was was what you needed at that time that could have avoided burnout?
Yeah, well, I guess at the time, and like I was in leadership roles for 20 years. So in that time, the healthy workplace was mainly focused on your physical environment. So, like your desk setup and the ergonomics, and there was all the safe work signs around. Don't do this, don't do that. But it wasn't on monitoring your own wellness and how you were traveling. What was your stress levels like? How to manage your stress levels, and also in terms of how to support others around you to support them in regulating their own stress levels as well. So, yeah, so there wasn't the information. There wasn't it wasn't talked about much. Mental health wasn't really mentioned. Whereas today, there's a lot more opportunities for discussion, for really great practical tools and strategies in workplaces to support healthy workplaces and healthy leaders so that they recognize the signs of burnout before they get to that really strong impact where it's affecting them physically and mentally and relationships and their career and productivity.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's such a good point because yeah, it's been a while since I was in a corporate kind of environment, but that's definitely the stuff that I can remember. It'd all be about, are you sitting correctly? Have you got everything within a right reach zone on your desk and everything like that? But it wasn't really addressing anything else that was, really what causes stress. And I think the other thing that you mentioned there, Donna, that I think is really important, and I think you see this in a lot of people who are, um, leaders who like tend to put others first,
Mm,
right? People who want to put others' needs before their own. And I see this in a lot of the business owners that I work with as well. Is I've got to, I always put others' needs before my own. Sometimes do you find like, because you mentioned about how do you deal with other people's stress? So like your teams or your staff's stress, how do you deal with that? Because that seeing people that you're responsible for under stress or in an unresourceful state can be very stressful to deal with, right?
Yes, so stressful. And often, especially if we're the business owner or the manager, we do take it on ourselves, and we are trying to fix and navigate and potentially take on more workload to support the team. And that can work for the short term, but when it's a long-term approach, it's going to catch up on you and going to have an impact on your well-being. And that's why, in terms of leadership, it's so important to really understand how you lead and how you can support yourself so that you can support others. It's like that analogy with the put your own oxygen mask on when you're in a plane, because then you can help others, whereas if you forget about yourself, you're going to be no use to your team and your organization. So it's really
Mm,
important. And now with legislation that's passed in December, the psychosocial aspect of managing those hazards, which means that interrelationship between your staff's mental health, their relationships, and the workplace, and monitoring that workplace stress. So now employers have a responsibility to manage workplace stress and what's acceptable levels. So workplaces will have stressful times, but what's reasonable? And so being proactive in that space is not only a great thing for your staff and your business, but it also meets the legislation. And it's been shown that by having a healthy workplace, whether you work for yourself or work for others, increases your productivity by 3 times. So
mm.
like, you can really gain a lot of benefits through managing your own well-being and stress, and supporting others to do the same.
Yeah, that is such a really important thing. And thanks for sharing that about the legislation, because I think, I don't know if everyone becomes aware of that, but I think like the important thing there, Donna, like you were saying, is like, yes, there's going to be different times when there is different amounts of stress in an organization or within a certain team or, roles. Um, but I think the important thing is not to just go, oh, well, that's just how it is sometimes. It's like, yes, acknowledging that there's sometimes more stress, but also making sure that there's support in place for people to be able to navigate those times, right?
Yeah, definitely. And also making sure that the workplace is set up so that it's nearly like you've got a bucket of energy so that you can work through those stressful times and come out the other end not broken and burnt out. And so having those tools and strategies in place is really important, and being proactive. And so we often know that different seasons are busier for businesses, or maybe there's been significant change or restructure. And those are the times that then we need to get some wellbeing sessions in the workplaces. You need to get practical stress management sessions so people can actually gain the tools that they can use in their business, and even accessing like employee assistance programs or coaches so that they can work through and fast track their way through the stresses, and being able to make decisions and problem solve, and also really very proactive in our own well-being, because that is key, because we all handle stress differently. Some of us can handle huge amounts of stress and just keep working through, whereas others can hear the word change and all of a sudden it puts them in a spiral. So
Yeah, yeah, and that's the key thing, is it's recognizing that everyone's individual and how they deal with these kinds of situations. And I it was interesting, Don, actually, that you mentioned, like people having the EAPs uh in place, right? So the employment assisted
Assistant.
programs.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in your thoughts about this, because I know, for example, I've heard some varied, I guess, feedback about some of the traditional ways that these programs have been set up. And I know, that there's, like, for example, like I work with some fairly fast growing businesses, and they tend to, I guess, move away from some of the traditional ways of managing people and staff and support. And that's where I often get called in, in coaching, because it is more direct and it's faster kind of shift and helping people change. So, like, what's your experience been in that space?
Yeah, employee assistance programs definitely have a role to play, and I've actually accessed them in the past. I guess their limitations are sometimes they can be a bit of a tick box approach in terms of it's part of our obligation as an organization to offer employees support. And so it can be more that, yeah, we've done that, but often they don't get access very often. And also, a lot of the EAPs are through online or phone services, and you're not actually dealing with the same person regularly. So they don't get to know you often, and they don't get to understand. Your scenario and the complexity, and also build up that rapport with you so that you feel confident enough to share whatever those big, heavy experiences or change that you're going through, so that you can actually be helped and given tools and strategies. And quite often, EAPs can be it's a bit of a talk fest, really, in terms of just downloading your problems. And
Mm.
so, in terms of getting employees to work through and get out the other side and productive again, you want it to be real strategy and results focused. And so it's giving them the tools to work through really quickly what's going on, the tools to be able to support the change and even changing perspectives and strategies, and then coming out the other side more connected to their workplace, more productive, and also happier overall. So, yeah, so
Mm.
so EAPs have a place to play, but sometimes that more personalized, really getting like a coach can really get to know the workplace, the staff, and understand the problems and the stresses and the change that is people are going through, and really fast track the support.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Donna. Because, like you said, like, any form of support is better than
Right.
none, right? It's great. And that's a really good thing. And I think, though, like, you're right on the money there about having the difference between, that maybe one-off phone call or talking to different people, and having someone who's really invested in that business and what's going on there as a whole. And someone who's outside of that business as well. I think they're two really, really, unique and powerful, I guess, elements to really help people create change, and especially in that workplace. So
Yeah.
on that, Donna, I'd love for you to share a little bit about how it is that you do help people, and, like, what are your sort of strategies, and even, are there any sort of, tips that you could share?
Yeah. And I guess the other thing with the APs, people tend to access them when it's hit crisis point.
Mm.
So the support I offer, I work with organisations and create leadership circles and workshops that really focus on getting to know the workplace, the staff, the relationships amongst the team, but is really supporting them through leadership skills, mindset, which is so important, and also in terms of well-being. And with the leadership circles, it's usually a small team environment. It's goals focused, so in terms of personal as well as business goals. And it's working together over a 6-month period where people go through massive growth, massive change, and really create strong connections and support ongoing through learning new skills and strategies, but also working through and sharing problem solving and techniques to really come up with some great solutions to some of the big challenges that individuals and workplaces face. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and also in terms of private coaching as well for workplaces. So that's where workplaces can be really proactive and they can target those high performers in their workplace who they reward them with coaching support so that they can really enhance their career and take the next level, but also coaching support can also be given to those staff who may be facing challenges and maybe their performance has dropped off, but they're such a great employee that the workplace is invested in supporting them through whatever challenges and helping them come out the other end so that they're productive and committed and happy. So.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. And there's two things out of what you were just saying there, Donna, that I'd love for you to expand on. And the first one was about, having personal and professional goals at work. And then the second one was about, you just mentioned, and I'm just going to say both these now because otherwise I'll forget. The second one was about you were saying about, when employees may be going through some challenges and they need some extra, assistance. So remind me of that one. We'll come back. But the first one with the personal goals and the professional goals, why do you think that that's important in the workplace, that people also have a focus on their personal goals?
Yeah, well, it's funny because like old school workplaces, we used to think there was like workplace me and personal me. And as soon as you worked into the office, personal you would just wait outside for the day.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. And in terms of setting personal and workplace goals, it's really important because people want more than just a job that pays them money. They want to be fulfilled. They want to live their purpose. And for a workplace to actually recognize personal goals as well as business goals and support the achievement of those helps also connect people's personal goals to the business goals, which then increases productivity and that connection and really looks at the values of why people are motivated and how you can motivate them in terms of their commitment to the organization, but also making sure that they're fulfilled in their jobs. And so they want to stay in the organizations. So
Mm.
it's all intertwined. And of course, if you can combine the power of both, that's where the real magic happens for organizations and also their employees.
Yeah, and I think, that's such a good point because yeah, I know even the businesses that I work in, the problems that I help people with, they're always personal problems, right? People bring their person into the workplace. That's who you are. That's what you're doing. So I think, that's such a good thing. And what you just said then actually ties into the part two that I was talking about when people are going through challenges. And it comes back, it's both ways. It comes back to, how do we keep people in a job that's serving everybody, because people do go through challenges, right? It's a bit like, I was just thinking then, it's a bit like a relationship.
Mm.
You have challenges in relationship, and any long-term relationship will have challenges. But if you go, well, that's it, you're not performing, see you later, which by the way, I had a history of doing in my past. Um, you just go through having these same kind of issues, right? So ultimately, you're sort of looking at it. Well, it's better for everyone if people were supported through whatever challenge they have, whether it's personal or professional. Do you think that that does create more like loyalty and trust, and like you said, ultimately productivity within the business increases, right?
A
Yeah.
100%. Like, if you know that your workplace actually cares and like really cares in terms of getting to know and understand what drives you, what motivates you, and is really focused on um, helping you provide that link. But also in terms of workplaces, they change all the time. Our lives change all the time. So there's going to be hiccups that pop up. So whether it's a big restructure at work and then that triggers everyone, like, oh, we've already gone through restructures and it was horrible. It was a bad experience. And so it's really being proactive in the workplace and connecting people's why. Why do they want to work for this organization? Why are they here? Why are they on this planet, basically?
Mm,
What really lights them up, and really helping them see their role in the bigger picture, because we all want to have an impact, we all want to make a difference, we all want to contribute, but sometimes we get lost in the stories of the past, and people like often say, oh, well, we've always done it this way, so let's just keep doing it this way. And so it's catching people in their stories and helping them to think differently,
mm.
and also see the opportunities and recognize their own blind spots, because we often don't, and that's why having coaches involved really helps people become aware of maybe what they're needing or what they're lacking, and supporting them through that. And even with the personal challenges, like life can be all crazy and we're like so focused on our job and our career and we're just smashing things out, getting promotions, but then all of a sudden maybe we're being kicked out of our house because someone's selling it on us, or our relationships break down, or maybe we do have young children and we're exhausted.
Yeah. Or
And
there's sickness or something else, other issues that happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
and in terms of like the commitment, with like when you know each other as people, even like the people that you work with, you're more willing to jump in and help them when they're struggling. Whereas
Mm.
if we just see each other as a job role, um, yeah, we're not as attached to that. There's no emotion in that. And so it's really important for people to feel valued and connected in the workplace, because you're going to get greater commitment. People are going to want to be part of the organization, not just now, but for long term.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because while you're talking about this, Donna, I'm going, oh my God, it's so much like being in a relationship. You can have like negative anchors, you can you can have misaligned values, you can have unfulfilled strategies, and this is all a bit NLP talk.
Oh, and
But
expectations. Oh
yeah,
my
the
goodness.
expectation.
Yeah.
So the thing that I guess what just popped in my mind then is, because obviously if you're ever in a relationship with someone, you've generally chosen someone that you like. But what
Mhm.
about in workplaces where you're spending 8 hours a day, maybe more, in an environment with someone that you didn't necessarily choose to be in the environment with? They just come along with the role. like what do you see around that kind of space, Donna, when you have just people who just have like clashing personalities or,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's so common because you don't get to choose who you work with. And it's a real, even when you look at the roles of a company, it's so different in terms of the skills. But in terms of how we all think, it's so different. Some of us are really big picture, and some of us need all the detail and the specifics. And so, as a leader, it's really important. And like I do a lot of work with leaders in this space to really understand how they think, but also when they understand how their brain works, they can also see and connect to, all right, well, this stuff actually needs this support, or this stuff actually needs a lot of change. So they need a lot of opportunity and new things to do. And so just connecting and understanding where people are coming from, what they are needing to succeed, and also what they're needing to be fulfilled. But you are always gonna come across those people who just press your buttons. And,
Perception is projection, right? It's so funny when you talk about that need for change. That was me when I worked in a role in an office. I needed to change things up every like 12 to months to 2 years. I would be like shuffling around the whole accounts department. The other people didn't like change.
No.
my poor, my poor, the FC at the time. Oh God, he must have had a challenge. He needed some leadership coaching at that time, I think.
Oh, that's so funny because I was the same. I needed change every 3 years was my number. But
Mm,
then I worked in a workplace in the disability sector that was going through big changes all the time. So I ended up staying there for 13 years, which was like a massive record. But I was getting that change need met
yeah.
because the workplace was changing so quickly. So yeah, so we're all different. But in terms of like, and also in workplaces, we have to have those difficult conversations
Mm,
because we're all contributing to a common purpose. And some people can make that achievement of that result really frustrating and slow down the process. So, really having those communication skills, knowing how to get into rapport with people, knowing what motivates people through their values, knowing what beliefs people are holding in terms of a lot of leaders I work with have imposter syndrome. So, even on the outside, they look all amazing, but on the inside, they're highly stressed because they don't feel like they're worthy and they don't feel like they know enough. And so
mm.
it's really getting a bit deeper into understanding how your staff tick because then you'll be able to support them. Whereas often we make judgments of, oh, that person's not contributing because they're just lazy. And it may
Mm.
be that they're actually really lacking confidence and they're needing some extra support, some extra steps to help get them where you need them to be.
Yeah, yeah. Donna, I could keep asking you all kinds of questions in this space because I think, leadership is one of those things that um, if you are stepping into that, into some kind of a leadership role, there can be all kinds of challenges that do pop up. And it's exactly why people, need you on their side, Donna. But like I would love to know, right? We've talked a bit about the things that you do and how, the incredible work that you do supporting teams and leaders. But I bringing it back to a bit about your business because I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast have their own business. And, often when you're starting your own business or you're going in your own business and you see everybody else, what they're doing in their business, and you think, oh my God, everyone's got it worked out apart from me.
Yeah.
um, what do you think has been one of the most challenging things for you in business and how have you dealt with it?
To be honest, the most challenging is getting out of my own way. Because stepping up into your own business is big. It's so different to what I had ever done before. Because before I was an employee, I was a manager, I was getting paid regularly. I didn't have to ask for money. I didn't have to be sales and marketing. And so, in terms of going into my own business, my biggest challenge was also believing in myself because even though I had all these skills, as an employee, it felt different to me than as my own business.
Mm,
And I think when people start up their own business, it's quite a vulnerable process that we go through. And it really brings out into light any of the insecurities that we had and that we could just work through in the business world or our workplace. And so for me, and I find myself now working with a business leaders circle that I run, and these are small business owners, and I can see a lot of the struggles that I used to go through, that that money mindset, our relationship with money, and our stories that we hold around what's possible for us and the limits that we often place on ourselves. And so, yeah, the hardest thing for me was, yeah, just building that belief and really stepping up as a leader in my business, and as a business owner, and really changing my identity and being the person that I needed to be a successful business owner and doing the things like you've got to put yourself in unfamiliar um, places and do unfamiliar things. And so it can feel like everything's all new and sometimes it can feel quite hard, but really pushing through that and doing the inner work, like working with Toni, has been amazing to help me discover me as a business owner and really get rid of the noise that was blocking my success. So definitely working with a coach is a great way to fast track that. Otherwise, yeah, I could see myself struggling with some of those things for a long time and not moving through it. So, and I'm impatient. I like to move through,
get
through
something done now.
things really quick. I want it now.
Yeah, and Donna, that's really interesting, and thank you for sharing that because you've got a bachelor in business and in commerce, accounting. You've done all this leadership for 20 years. You've held some, really, like big roles in your time. And but it's so interesting to note that when you go into business, because I had the exact same thing. I hadn't come from management kind of roles, mind you, but stepping into business is such a different environment,
Yeah.
and it is where you need to bring in all of those kinds of skills that you've got, and like just pump it up big time to kind of shift, because it's a huge identity shift, isn't it?
It's massive. And yeah, I nearly felt like I was like an apprentice or a trainee again when I first, even though I had all this experience and all the skills and all the qualifications, but it just felt different, me representing me instead of me representing an organization. And
Yeah.
so it was a massive identity shift. And you saw my frustration when I was going through that. But then, yeah, you keep growing and you keep evolving. And yeah, you take the action, you get the results, and then you're even more pumped to do more and have a bigger impact. And also whatever you're doing, people need it. There's so many people who need support, and especially in workplaces and even personally, like people are facing a lot of challenges. And so
Yeah.
being able to connect with great people who know their stuff, but also are relatable, is really important.
Well, which is exactly what you are, Donna, in sharing that story, because, and I think that's the thing is when you're helping people move through their own challenges, it definitely helps if you regularly challenge yourself, right? And you know what that's like to put yourself way out of your comfort zone and essentially develop the new neurology for that new environment or that new role or whatever it is that you want to do. I think it gives you loads of empathy as well, doesn't it, for people and where they're at. But also, I think like it gives you that certainty that it's okay to push people through, because you know what it's like to get through and come out the other end, like you were saying, when you're suddenly like, oh my God, yes, I made it out the other side. It
Yeah,
was so worth it.
yeah, and like for me, being burnt out in corporate, like for my first couple of years in business, I did not want anything to do with corporate. So I was just doing private coaching clients. And it was only in the last year or so that I thought, all right, I need to step up because corporate really needs this type of support because there's so much pressure in the corporate world. And it was only when I put myself out there and applied for a grant with a McLaren Vale Business and Tourism Association through Wellbeing SA and Business SA that it really took my impact and exposure and also um, just my excitement for, oh, I can do more and I can help more people. And so now like the McLaren Vale business community, all the small businesses are now getting access to coaching and workshops to support them as business owners and business leaders so that their businesses can be successful, they live healthy lives, but also it impacts the community as well. So that ripple effect is really exciting. So
Yeah.
it just shows that yeah, you've got to trust yourself and it's okay when it feels a bit scary. Get the
Yeah.
support, back yourself, and yeah, you'll get there.
And I think that's just such a testament to you just leveling up your mindset, right? Because from going from like when you first started your business, could you have seen yourself applying for grants and getting grants and working with, like Business SA and Wellbeing SA and, the councils and things like that? Yeah. Like Donna's
No.
shaking her head. Yeah.
No way. Yeah, sorry, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I could not foresee that. And I think that was one of the blockers early on in my business, like when I started my business, because I wanted to know the path. I thought there was a right path that I had to take.
Yeah.
And
Can someone give me the step-by-step
I
procedure of how to
know.
do business, please?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and just tell me that, yeah, this is at the other end, and these are the steps, please. But it doesn't happen like that, and the grant came up through one conversation, um, through council, and that didn't go anywhere initially. But then a couple of weeks later, they contacted me about this state government grant that came up. So it's just like taking the action, knowing what direction and who you want to help, because then the path will start to show itself and
Yeah.
you will gain your confidence in taking those steps along the path. And sometimes the path does take detours and
Yes.
and
Yeah.
a lot of those are good. Some of them can be challenging, but you're always going to learn something, and you're usually going to have a laugh afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? You've got to be able to go, I know there's going to be a point in time where everything's going to be okay. And in fact, it'll be a really funny story.
Yeah, this is going to be a great share that I can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my experiences.
Absolutely. Well, Donna, I feel like we could just keep talking because you are such a wealth of information. And I know we haven't even spoke about, the half the stuff that you've done in the community and the other things that you've done, which is really amazing. But I will definitely pop all of your links and things into now. You've got a free download, haven't you, for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
healthy workplace assessment? Is that right?
Yeah. So whether you are just you in your business or whether you've got a load of staff and a big business, it's a great, really important assessment to do because we often aren't aware where we're at in terms of our workplace health. And when we can check in and get the feedback of where we're at, it will just help you come up with strategies and connect in with someone like me who can help your workplace and really build that resilience and healthy workplace infrastructure so that teams just want to stay working for you and productivity just goes through the roof, which is exciting.
Yeah, I love that. So I'll put the links to that in the show notes. So definitely go and check that out. And all Donna's contact details will be there as well. And Donna, the final question that I just love to ask people, because especially people in business, I don't know what it's like. We can get a bit caught up in business. What do you do for fun, Donna?
Oh, I do like fun. So on the weekend, for fun, we went to the river with the family. So quite often we go skiing and wakeboarding on the river. I've been wakeboarding for a while, but I'd never mastered the kneeboard. And my 8-year-old taught me how to do
Ah,
on the weekend. So I'm now a kneeboarder as well as a wakeboarder.
I never got into the kneeboarding. It always
Oh,
kind of freaked me out. There must be something in the lean or the something that makes all the difference.
I just found like trying to pull yourself up. It was definitely used muscles that I hadn't used for a while.
Yeah, good job. Good job. I did see some pictures up. It looked like you were having a great time. So that's awesome, Donna. Well, Donna Adams, thank you so much for being my guest on the coaching circle. I've loved all of your insights and really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Tony. It's my pleasure, and I've loved listening to your podcast. So thanks for having me on.